Say, how do I forgive when there's no reason at all? Behind these walls I live as the devil he calls. I'm tempted at every side, and I see no way out. My burden, I bear this fight. I know I must free my soul. I become aware that I am the presence in me town. This face as I step past my sin. Oh, the light takes me home. Oh, the light takes me home. Steadfast, I know, facing thee, no evil on my path, and unstoppable will be the power that breaks the night, the power that breaks the night. I become aware that I am the presence in me in town. His face as I step past my sin. Oh, the light takes me home. Oh, the light takes me home. I become aware that I am the presence in me in town. The space as I stare past my sin. Oh, the light takes me home. Oh, the light takes me home. I said the terror won't find me, the fear can't bind me, no burdens to bear at all. Awaken, I put my cares behind me, my cares behind me. I become aware that I am the presence in me. It's on space as I step past my sin. Oh, the light takes me home. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I become aware of the light, aware of the light, yeah, yeah. I know that it's the light, the source that fills my need. Oh, the light, oh, the light. I'll become aware of the light, aware of the light. It's a Christ in me, so simple and free.
Well, good evening. I just finished having a nice dinner date with Michelle, and we had sushi, and now we're driving for about another 40 minutes. So I figured, what the heck here? I've got some time. Maybe we'll just see what happens. I just put out a video and I talked about the Austrian woman who found herself in the prisoner of war camp. Her story of success. of walking right out of there. No food card. She had no ID, which meant no food card, no train pass, no boarding house pass, none of these things. And this is, during a time when these are probable reasons where you could lose your life messing around with not having these necessities. Not to mention, walking out of the camp with the armed guards, and then she found herself in places where there were raids going on and bombs dropping and places burning down. And what did she say? There were Asiatic Russians coming to the homes and looting and other nefarious activities. But she found that her steadfast focus on there only being one man, the man that God created, and that God is life, God is truth, God is love. Real simple concepts that she was learning from Science and Health, Heated Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. She was curious whether anybody else believed this and if it worked or not, and she found she had all these proofs and it was working. In the worst of conditions, I would say, maybe not so much in terms of her physical health, but in terms of macroeconomic conditions, it probably doesn't get much worse than what she was going through right there. She was in a room with 12 other people with one light bulb, and she had her one book that she got to read, which was fortunately the one she needed. She had the Bible and Science and Health. And that one book was a replacement for her ID and her food card and all of her necessities, because what it did for her, no other being could ever provide. It gave her a direct hotline to God. It gave her a oneness in consciousness with Spirit. And as it says in Romans, the law of the Spirit hath set me free from the law of sin and death. She discovered the law of spiritual atonement with the living Christ, the one man that God created. And here we are, fast forward, that was 1942, 3, 4, all the way to 1945, I believe. Now, here we are. We are almost a century later. What are we looking at in the macroeconomic landscape? Well, by all means, it could get that bad again. It could, according to the mortal appearance of things. But what do we do now? What do we do ahead of this? Well, why not get ahead of this and steer it off course before it becomes fully manifest through your 5 sense reality? You do have this power to accomplish this. One with God is a majority. One with God. Yes, you, one. You are the one with God, and that makes you all supreme and powerful unto yourself, which is your extended body, which is your world, and all of the characterizations of good and evil that are happening out there. Those are just reflections of human thought where you've ascribed power. And so let's take that power back and let's give it all to the principal being, divine love. And let's allow divine love to prove the law of spirit in your life. You want to be set free from this nightmare, from this dream, from this insanity of human reasoning, of wickedness in high places, and I would say treason to the spirit. Human reasoning becomes treasonous to spiritual identification, and therefore it must be put down. It must be cast off permanently, tossed out altogether. What am I talking about? Well, I'm saying when you go online and you see what mortal reality has to project to you, and it gives you its negative report. This is how bad it's going to get for you. It tries to tell you this, and it shares the storyline of the evil, corruption, the drama of the good and bad playing out. That is the serpent in the garden hissing at you. That is the hiss of the serpent, asserting that if you will only buy into its storyline, then you shall know as a God knows. It's trying to divert you off of the principle where God is, and you reflect God, and nothing can ever change that, to another set of rules, laws, the law of the flesh, that, hey, if you just agree that right where I say evil is, I'll let you become the power of good to oppose this evil. That's what it's telling you. And in that moment, in the moment of self-preservation, when human will steps in and says, I will take up my arms and I will defend. The minute you say that, you have just been tricked and trapped into the law of sin and death, where you absolutely will not succeed. Under any circumstance, you have 0% chance of success. None. And I will tell you why. Because the principalities and the powers of wickedness are in high places. They are beyond what your mortal reasoning is interpreting through its limited analysis of all of the infinite realities that are playing out in the ever-expanding divine universe, which is only love. But the shadow world of fiction, the principalities that govern that shadow world, are much higher up the food chain than your human ego, which is projecting a material world to you. So in other words, you've given all of the burden to carry. You've given the burden to carry to an ego that is impotent. Even on its best day, it couldn't even get a lick in on the enemy if it tried. Because it's puny. It's nothing. The Christ, the one living being, the Christ, within you, must carry that burden for you. Because only the Christ has the power and capacity, with God's authority, to blow these demons back and put them under your feet and trample upon those serpents. No ego in existence, because there is no ego in existence other than one, God's mind made manifest through the living Christ. Everything else is a dream. It is a liar. It is falsehood. And so turning away from that principle is the propensity known as Satan. It's the turning away of a truth, a divine principle, to the darkness and the fog and saying, I will become the knowledge of good and evil. Therefore, I can take my position on one side or the other. And this is to have other gods. This is to have another cause. This puts the law of flesh into operation because it is you that supplied the cause for that effect. And yet there is no cause and no effect in any of it. It's just a hallucination of the left linear logical reasoning carnal brain in a dream state known as Adam, believing that it is life outside of the eternal principle of divine love. And it is no such thing. All of the emanations that are arising in time and space in front of your lying human eyes, remember one thing. They are 99.999997% empty space. You're fast asleep, dreaming of terror, just like in the Gospel of Truth in the Nag Hammadi library. It says that they run, even though no one pursues them. And they are steadfast trying to kill each other even though no one is there. What do you think it means? It means that the ones that are pursuing you in evil, they're not there. When you say, yes, they are, I just saw it online. I just saw it. I heard about it. I've seen the letters. I've seen all the stuff. I've seen everything. All the evidence that I need to see, I know that it's there because it is real. Well, it's just like when you get a cut on your finger and you start saying, well, look it's real, it's bleeding, it's torn open, I got blood everywhere, it's cut. And then a week later, it looks like this again. It's totally healed up. Where did the cut go? Where did it go? It retreated back to the nothingness from where it came. Well, where does the evil go when it leaves? It retreats back to the nothingness from where it came. How does it do that? When you cease believing in it and you cease fearing it. But what if you have adopted some form of self-punishment and you bring it upon yourself? Then recognize that the ego did that and not you. The ego, in its false stature, is perceiving all of the evidence of a material world and giving you a report saying, listen, I've done all of your data mining for you. Here's my intel report. Go ahead and take a look at this. The synopsis is 97% chance you're screwed. And the ego is telling you this. It's saying, well, the doctor looked at all the x-rays and, these are the best doctors in the world, and they said you're screwed. Look, all the evidence is right there. Look, here's the conclusive data, 100%. How can you deny this? Well, because I never lived that life. So you're showing me a life that never was created. And you're telling me that there's a cause that is bringing about a consequence when there is no principle or activity within that so-called creation. In other words, it's in a stupor of its own deficiency. This supposed second cause, there's only one cause, divine love, that's all there is, one God. But let's just pretend for a minute there are two gods, two powers. So this second power, we call this evil. This second power of evil, it is in a blind stupor, knowing that it doesn't even have a root. Now imagine that. If it doesn't have a root, it can bear no fruit. Well, how does it get its power to create that? Well, it doesn't have any power to create. So where does it come alive in? Well, it comes alive in human thought. Well, why do we see it in our world then? Why is it happening in a collective scale? We can all agree we saw it. Who's this we? You and 3 other human beings can fit on the head of a pin if you took the empty space out. You mean the thoughts that you have about people as you think they exist in time and space, that those are supposedly God's people, the ones that perish back into the dust? Oh, so you still think you were born of flesh. So you're still sinning against God. You're still rejecting the Genesis 1 birth, the natural birth of one creation that you live, move, and have your being in. You're rejecting that. You're rejecting your divinity. So you're still rejecting your divinity. You still want to believe in a second cause. And because you want to believe in a second cause, you're going to allow for the so-called law of that cause to play itself out. You say, well, no, I don't want that law to play itself out. And I say, well, then here's how you break the spell. Right in this moment, all of existence is pouring forth only one principal divine activity, and that is the eternal expansion of goodness that is ripe with the fragrance of love. And that fragrance of love is like smelling a rose. It is smelling you as its beloved prize. You are the offspring, the heir, the inheritor of the quality nature of goodness expanding through joy, through peace, through love, long suffering, which is patience, meekness, which is might, gentleness, kindness. All of these are the representative beingness of God's true manifestation, which are the sum total of spiritual qualities. So the spiritual qualities that come forth in the corpse of the material dead carcass out there, when you identify these spiritualized qualities reflected, then you have taken in a smell of the fragrance that God smells of his own creation. You are essentially becoming God, smelling his own rose, his own creation. You are becoming God-like when you identify with those emanations of truth. They're not physical, they're spiritual. They are the substance of reality. The physical is nothing but thoughts about what you think you saw, what you think you heard, what you think you felt. And there are a million different interpretations. If you take 10 people in any given crime scene and you ask them what happened, they will all have a different interpretation of the sequence of events. And yet you believe that your mortal, carnal, human reasoning brain is giving you the only possible interpretation of what you think you saw, and coming to a conclusion based on that, and therefore ascribing good and evil powers to that basis of non-reality, breaking the first commandment, the second commandment, committing blasphemy by taking graven images of wickedness in form, putting them into your imagination and contemplating them inside your thought about God's creation. That's blasphemy. It becomes projected into your experience for you to purify your thought, because you're here to purify your thought. So when I tell you, what do? Well, you smell the fragrance of those qualities of goodness that are forever emanating in your environment, and they can't help but be attracted to you, because it is the fragrance of wisdom pursuing you back to the Father. It's pursuing you so that you will turn to wisdom and turn your face to the countenance of the Most High, the Father. Right where you stand, the Father is, and only the Father is. So forever in that space, there is always a divine mist of the rich sweetness of the Father's presence amid every lying human dream of trouble. It doesn't matter what it is, and the corridor is always through peace. And then you enter through gratitude. So here's the sequence to unlock the Father's countenance. You've never heard this before, but I'll share it with you now. First, I rest in peace. I am dead to the world and alive in spirit. In other words, I am of the pure mind of God, recognizing there is only one cause. Therefore, I can take my dog out of the fight, and I can surrender entirely to divine love's perfect governance over its creation. And I'm part of that creation. Therefore, there were no mistakes, and there are no judgments, and there are no such thing. There is no such thing as a sin or a sinful man. There's only a perfect man who is forever bound by only one law and ruling principle, which is divine love. And I am in that creation, of that creation, and I observe only that creation in my awareness now. And so in that place of peace, now I become very sensitive to where those divine fragrances of peace and kindness and joy and love and gentleness and meekness and goodness, where are these coming in my reality? They're trying to reach me right now. It's a divine truth that God's love will always reach out, because God is the giver and always giving and blessing and pouring forth. God is all there is. So therefore, those fruits are forever trying to break through the fog of this dense terror dream and reveal only one life. I must put my awareness on where they are right now. Oh. The atmosphere is so gentle here. Right here where I am, right now, the atmosphere is gentle. I know. It was only an hour ago I saw this terrifying, horrible image on the social media, and it was so evil and wicked, and it was assuredly going to be the thing that ruins my entire life. And I know that was the human mind that was under the spell of the hiss of that snake in the garden. I shall know no other gods. I am the representative being, Genesis 1, man. I am in heaven with my Father. I know no other gods. I know one. Divine love is the only God of my life. The only law that operates in my reality is the one living manifestation of Christ. Always multiplying the loaves and fishes, fulfilling all of my human needs. I rest my case permanently on this principal idea. And as I become rooted in this divine truth, I begin to take notice that what troubled me greatly was an image in a mortality creation which arguably exists only subjectively in my ego's mind in that way. Because there are 1,000 different opinions that I've seen, even on social media, that differ from my opinion. So, if every one of these opinions, which means no fact, opinion means no fact, by the way, in the Parse syntax grammar. So, if all of these no facts are creating a systemic condition of no fact in an adverb verb Babylonian dialect of dielectric tension between polarizing opposites, which means that it is just the agitation and the rest intermingling as the twin snake phenomenon, if you will, the twin elements of good and evil. This doesn't mean anything to me, because I am obedient to one cause. For I can only be coming from one life, because I am life. And life is God, and God is love, and all is contained within Him that was ever created. And therefore, I will not call any of His substance anything other than good. And right where I am, good must be revealed as the only truth here. So where is the good trying to reach me right now? Well, I know that I'm loved. I feel that intelligence is operating through me. governing my existence. I don't have to think about that. Intelligence is doing this for me. And intelligence belongs entirely to God. So now I take it a step further and I say, well, God, I sure am grateful because I am going to covenant with you, which activates the law of the Spirit. And I say, God, I'm going to covenant with you for my love. It is your love, and I covenant with you. I reflect your love. God, I know that my ability to prosper is of you. It is your abundant stream of divine love filling my needs. Therefore, I covenant with you, Father. I covenant with you. I know that my protection and my safety are entirely because of your divine will, which is for man to prosper, which means to experience abundant well-being in all areas, relationships, money. All of these so-called human needs are nothing more than the culmination of receptivity to spiritual atonement, when I am living as spiritual consciousness only. So therefore I atone with you, Father, and I covenant with you for all of my provision and my protection and promotion in life. And Father, I covenant with you for the well-being that I know is your existence, immutable, impenetrable good. Water cannot drown it, fire cannot burn it, weapons cannot cleave it. Spirit I am is the only life, and it is the only life that I covenant with. And so as I make these mental and verbal covenants, if you will, I am choosing this day whom I shall serve. And I am pulling myself out of the gutter of human reasoning, and I am setting on high the truth. And I am worshiping one God. And in doing so, I have done all that I am required to do to bring forth the demonstration of the law of spirit that sets me free from the law of sin and death. The only thing that silences the accuser is the Christ. Therefore, I am the Christ. The only thing that breaks the dream of this dense fog of terror is the Christ. Therefore, I am the Christ. The only manifestation of God, God had only one son, one descendant, is the living Christ. Therefore, I am Christ. I am this I am. And just like the ancients, I look to the countenance of the Father all day, every day. I am this I am. I am this I am. And one with the Father is the majority that brings down the power of armies. It brings down the tyranny. It brings down the destruction of human reasoning. And it reveals that that truth, that I am, is the only existence in existence. And the mist of the 5 sense fabricated nightmare begins to break apart, and the light becomes known, and it begins to shine through, and it smashes to pieces all of the agents of the Matrix, and it begins to burn all of the ignorance out of my awareness. And I leave the world of the fallen, dead corpse, corporeal sense, corporation, nation, fictional Babylonian debt slave system, AI, gone rogue, Matrix, alien simulation. All of this nonsense is nothing. It never was anything, and it never will be anything. Because the Father and I are one.
Hello, I'm Veronica with A Tone, Being in Togetherness, care of Matthew David Hurtado and Michelle O'Brien. The situation is that you're under a perpetual state of anxiety, blocking your ability to enter flow state and unlock your inner abundance. The complication is that you're being attacked by all the airwaves: negativity, fear, lack, recession, depression. It's sinking in your mind. The question, therefore, is how can you bulletproof your consciousness to be a master receiver of God's abundance, including divine guidance in every moment? The Bible's suggested way to protect yourself amid these times is to occupy the right brain awareness and tap into perpetual flow state, where divine answers show up in plain sight all around you. Expert in flow state awareness, Robin Sharma, explains how flow state can make you up to 800% more effective. Former Navy SEAL Michael Jacko believes so strongly in the power of intuition. He calls his brand Unleashing Intuition Secrets. This was the secret that Matthew David Hurtado used to ask and receive divine answers. Immediately after he grew a small sum of money into a massive fortune, it appeared in plain sight as soon as he entered flow state. The Bible gives us clues of this discovery that Matthew David Hurtado calls the eye of God, here in Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all of these things shall be added unto you. This part describes entering the mystical chamber of right brain awareness. Again, in Deuteronomy 9:4, for my righteousness, the Lord had brought me to possess this land. This part describes how the heavens open up as a state of consciousness. Finally, in Job 9:6, if thou wert pure and upright, surely now he would awake for thee, and make the habitation of the righteousness prosperous. This describes the miracle that happens when you open the right brain and dwell into this consciousness, prospering. This world tried to hide this from you. Modern-day mystic Matthew David Hurtado will develop your skills to enter this new consciousness over a 3-day period of training in luxurious Door County, Wisconsin. A place of magic and a powerful vortex for divine transformations to occur. Limited spots are available. Visit makefatherproud.com. makefatherproud.com. Again, these are the days of destruction for the wickedness on this planet. God is calling his elect to reestablish his covenant. It's your time to level up. Go to makefatherproud.com. Selah.